Hi, this is Dave with Mad Bros Media. I'm at the Retro Gaming Convention in Seattle with Mr. Terry Diebold. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and you?
Good. So, this man is the owner of the one and only Sony PlayStation Nintendo prototype. You want to tell us a story about how you found it and all that, the whole story? I know you probably told it a bunch of times, but for our viewers.
Yeah, we tell it a bunch of times all day here, but that's all right. I accidentally bought this on an online auction when our company went bankrupt. This was actually in the auction number that I had bought a bunch of boxes that I had packed. My boss back then told me to go around to the boardroom and pack up all the stuff in the boardrooms. We had two boardrooms, and I was looking at buying the plates, cups, saucers that, the board members used because they were all silver lined, and a lot of the stuff was brand new. So I packed the stuff. I knew what I was bidding on. When they had the online auction, I had a paddle. I sat out in the theater there, and when it started, the bidding started at 25. I said 50. It went to 65. I said 75, and it stopped. Well, on the screen, they showed 3 DocuSafe boxes with the lids popped, and it showed the plates and cups in there. But I guess the people didn't look and see actually how many other boxes there were. So they probably thought, wow, this guy's nuts, $75 for 3 boxes of plates and cups. But I already knew, since I packed them all, how many plates and cups and saucers and everything else there were. So when I won the bid, I went back to the auctioneer guys, and I said to them, I said, they took me over and they showed me the lot number, and there's a bunch of extra boxes and no writing on it for me since I packed them. And I'm like, okay, you sure this is all my stuff? They go, yeah. So it took me 2 carloads to get this stuff home. So the stuff that I wrote on and I knew what was in the boxes, I set aside. And any of the brown moving boxes that I didn't write on, I started opening when I found shoes and ties, and which belonged to Olaf Olsson, because that's where this came from, out of his New York office when they closed. And then I found the plaques, and the one plaque I do have shows his name on it, and there's 3 other plaques, just so commemorative things of when they, had like a 10,000 or a million, whatever of something. And then another one I opened up had like a couple hundred games, not a couple hundred music CDs in it, all right? So a lot of them are brand new. And then when I opened up another one, it had this unit in there, and then it had actually about 30, 40 games, but none of the games are for this unit. And some of them are for like UK, PAL, so, and the games are like from back in the early 90s. And they're brand new, some of them still in cellophane. But, that's basically how I got this, and if you factor everything into it, if you broke it down to every piece separately, I probably paid a nickel for this thing.
Man, that's incredible. And then now, you said you've been, you probably travel the world showing this around?
We'll go anywhere anybody wants us to. Let's come on. We went to Hong Kong for 53 days last year. If that doesn't show people we're serious, there's something wrong.
That's amazing. And you said you bought it for a nickel, and you've had several offers for it. Is that correct?
We had a lot of offers here in the States, real people going like, oh, we'll give you 30, 40K for it. But then when our buddy over in Hong Kong, Dixon, he's got a well-known friend. We are not ever going to give this guy's name away. He offered us 200,000 American dollars for it, and that's before the whole unit was working, without sound, without the CD spinning and opening and closing. You could just play games on it, Famicom games, but now you can do both.
That's crazy. So it does take cartridges and CDs then?
The CD, it won't read the CDs right now, but it hopes it's closest. We're hoping somehow, some way out there, an engineer is going to help us figure that part out too, just like Ben did in part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, so you said originally it doesn't work, and then you got it working. You had an engineer getting it to work now, like a gamer. You got
Mr. Ben Heck,
the one that you're promoting here. Yeah. You want to tell us a little bit about that process of how that went along?
Oh wow, we only spent a day and a half with Ben, and what he did in a day and a half was unbelievable, as you can see.
Yeah.
Part 1 was the part where him and my son took the unit apart, and he started going into the technical part of it with the RAMs and everything else, reading and everything else. And then part 2 is when the magic happened, when Ben was actually sitting down behind the desk with his soldering gun, his magnifying glass, getting real close to look at the part numbers, bringing them up online, see what every part did. Then he started cleaning up the solder joints, making them smoother. Then he filed 3 bad capacitors. He replaced all the bodge wires with new bodge wires, and he taped them down. But as soon as he replaced the 3 capacitors, and then he removed another bodge wire totally, it started with the CD spinning, opening and closing. And then when we plugged, he had small speakers. He plugged them in the back. We heard sound. It was like a Hail Mary, and we were. It was like being over in Hong Kong again and watching that OS cart boot up for the first time when it showed the Sony emblem. We were like kids over there. Our voices got so high over there. We were just like pacing the room. Our buddy Dixon over there, we're all high-fiving. It's Miller time, you know. So we had fun with this over there for 53 days. And that was their first. Retro HK was actually their first gaming expo they had over there, and to be over there, brought over there for 53 days and sponsored was amazing.
Since you've been, especially you've been in China and stuff, and you've been all over with this, I'm sure it's all over the internet, you know, that you have and stuff. Has Sony or Nintendo ever tried to call you or approach you about it?
No, neither one have, but a few months back, I know Shuhei Yoshida, he's tracking us, he's monitoring us. Now, I'm pretty sure Nintendo is too. So I reached out to him on Twitter one time, and I asked him, you know, you try to see if you can get any information out of these guys, but they're all vague. You can understand why. His 3 words to me were, "You are blessed." That was it. That's all he said to me. So, you know, this is definitely the one and only. Because if they had one, I'm sure Shuhei would have brought it out and shown people on camera, yeah, they have one, but we also have one too. So we're pretty sure out of the 200, this is the one and only left.
Yeah, and blessed you are. And so you said there was originally 200, then they destroyed them all?
Yeah, it's supposedly supposed to have been all destroyed. Olaf Olsson, he was in charge of the project when he was the head man at Sony back in the 90s. So when they recalled all of them, I guess he said, look, I'm in charge of the project. I want to keep one. So he probably went and said, hey, do what you got to do so I can keep it. And they did. And, you know, the rest is history. Supposedly this was on his desk up in New York. Some guy named Brian, I guess, on Reddit said he saw it on Olaf's desk up in New York. But I tried to Google to see if I could find any pictures on his desk in New York. Nothing.
So, what did you? Final question. What's your plans for the future for this product?
We'd like to travel as much as possible, anywhere people want us to go. My son wants to try to 3D this and put a pie in it. You know what I mean? We're actually looking into doing posters for it, 3 different posters. One of it X-rayed, one of it where it was torn down totally, and we got a big picture of that showing all the parts laying next to each other. And then the other one of just the unit itself with the cartridge and, you know, sitting there. So we're looking at posters too to help us offset so we can even get to more of these venues. I mean, you know, anybody out there that knows an expo or a convention owner wants us to go, have them email me at tdiebold51@verizon.net. I'll set it up with them.
All right. Sounds great. I mean, I think this is really awesome what you're doing. I mean, some people can be, you know, greedy. They could just hold it at home and don't want to show anybody. But that's pretty awesome that you're sharing it with the world and even getting it working and share it with the world. So we really appreciate that. So I want to thank you so much, Terry. This has been David with Mad Bros Media.